Welcome to Get Motivated with Donato Parisi, a show designed to reach you where you are, focusing on the fact that you can be anything you want and desire. All you have to do is get motivated. If you need a challenge in your life, then look no further. Get Motivated with Donato begins now.
All right, welcome back, everyone, to Get Motivated with your host, Donato. And I have a special guest here today with us, Carolyn Brooks-Collins, right? Did I say that right?
You got it right, Donato. Yes.
And she is an author and was in a book with me on The Greatness in You with Les Brown and John Tallarico here. She was also in Women of Power that we've interviewed some other ladies with, and both great books. And Carolyn, today I want to talk to you here about Get Motivated. So, let's just jump into that part of it, and I'll ask you another icebreaker here in a minute. But what does Get Motivated mean to you?
Get motivated means working and moving ahead towards a goal that you have in life and doing something that's going to move you forward. And sometimes it can be in any aspect of our lives, whether we want to lose weight, exercise more, change, do something. But being motivated, to me, get motivated is do something that's going to help you move in the direction you want to go towards whatever goal you have.
All right. No, that's great. That's totally it, right? So let's go to the icebreaker question then. If you could meet anybody, past or present, who would it be? This is always an interesting question.
I thought about that, and I was thinking about different artists, different writers. I love to read, and I have been fascinated by Zora Neale Hurston. I've read many of her books, and just her story and what she was able to accomplish. And I know she kind of really lived somewhat, she was part of the Black Renaissance, but somewhat lived in obscurity, perhaps. And it wasn't until, I don't know, perhaps I think it was in the 70s, but her books were found again. Alice Walker wrote an article about her books, and that renewed an interest in Zora Neale Hurston. But I would love to talk to her about her life and her experiences and what she did going to Columbia University back in a time where many African Americans, and particularly African American women, did not attend college. So I just think she would be a fascinating person to talk to.
Yeah, no, that anybody in the past like that had to overcome things, right, is just remarkable. And to be in their presence, to understand, the adversities they faced, like you were mentioning, that would be something for sure. I want to now get into a little bit more about who you are now that you kind of bring those kinds of things up. Like, what was your backstory? What is the thing that you've gone through, or anything you want to share, right? Like, just give us a brief background on who Carolyn is.
I looked at that question, and I've been asked that before, but I start thinking about, I think my life has been filled with, I won't say episodes, but with times where I started over. And that's been a theme in my life. And my message to other people, that you can always start over. You can always take control of your life. So I grew up in the Northeast. We were like lower middle income family. I knew I wanted to go to college. And at that point in time, my parents, so we're looking at early 70s. And my dad in particular was like, I'm not sure that's possible. I'm not sure we can do that. And he was encouraging me to get that good government job, because he worked for the federal government, as did many people who lived in the Washington, D.C. area. But I said, no, I didn't want to be a secretary. I didn't want what he thought was a good, stable opportunity. I didn't want to do that. So I knew somehow, some way, I would go to college. And that's what I ended up doing, going to the University of Maryland. And it was nearby. It was actually 2 bus rides away from home. So it was close enough that I could get home using public transportation. But I did that, and I started with, I was really interested in urban studies and thought about doing archaeology. And then it just hit me. I'm like, what Black person do I know who had ever done that? So I said, nope. And someone introduced me to accounting. And that's what I did. And I graduated with a degree in accounting, and it maintained a career in the accounting area field for 45 years until my recent retirement this year. But, I think I had like what people would consider a normal life. But when I say times where I started over, I married my high school, college sweetheart, thought we were in love, but 3 years later, I realized our ideas of marriage were very different. Our goals were very different. And I opted to leave. And that was difficult because it was like I was I was ostracized. I was the pariah. No one in my family or his family had ever gone through a divorce. But I just said, I have a choice here. I can stay and be unhappy, or I can leave and start over. So I moved to a totally different city, didn't know anyone, started over, took a new job. I always had that belief that I could land on my feet. I've always said, God has had my back. And, it was scary, but you learn to overcome fear. So I think there was that goal of trying, maybe taking advantage of opportunities, not knowing how I would do it. So, started over, met my next husband, got married, we raised a family. But with any marriage, it was, ups and downs, some good, like any marriage. I'm sorry. But, and so we were married 20 years, and unfortunately he passed away due to lung cancer. So went through that period of that change in your life, things unexpectedly happening and you having to deal with it and wondering first, why me? But dealing with it and bouncing back from it, just got a new job, just different things happen in my life. You got a new job, thought that was great, and then got downsized. Didn't know what I was going to do then, but opportunities were made available, and I got a new job, and I moved to another city, started over. I didn't particularly like the job, but it was stable, and that was what I was focused on. I think that when I said have those periods of starting over, but it was also that I was in a lot of times in survival mode, not really thriving, not thinking about how I always say now I want people to live their best life. That wasn't really a focus of mine. It was, what do I need to do to keep a roof over my head, provide for my children, have that stable income, not really thinking about, is it something I love? Is it something I enjoy? Am I passionate about it? I didn't even think, that wasn't even on my radar. So didn't even think about that. Didn't really kind of dream again or think about what I was passionate about until recently. So that's kind of my story, very similar to other people, but also knowing that I would land on my feet. But now then, within the last 2 years, start thinking about, are you living your best life? And knowing that regardless of what happens to you, you can always start over. And now it's time that you can really dream again and really think about what's important to you. So that's me kind of in a nutshell.
No, that's great. I mean, you just shared a lot of, pretty personal stuff, and you do that here in the Woman of Power book too, right? Where, you talk about all of these different things, and the big takeaway that I think I got from there, was mental health and our mindset, right? So if you can maybe talk a little bit more about that, because I think you alluded to that in the beginning, because sometimes people get in a rut, right? We get stuck in our minds and don't know where to go, what to do. I mean, even earlier, I was writing part of my book, and I was like, just in a fog and a haze, and I just like knew I needed to step away from it, right? So we sometimes have to get back on track and get our minds right. So talk to us about that mental health and getting our mindset where it should be.
Oh, Donato, those are good questions and just a good theme. I think the strength for me, I've always had a strong sense of faith. I have always had a strong belief in myself in many areas. There are times, Lord knows, there are times that I've doubted myself, but knowing, I think having that belief in my ability has kept me going, and my relationship with God, because even when I was thinking about when I took a job, was downsized and moved to another city. As I said, it was something I'd never done before. I was working on a construction site, had never done that, wasn't really happy with the job, and then started applying to other jobs. And one in particular I didn't get. And one of the gentlemen on the job, he and I got to know each other really well, and he was a deacon at his church. And he said to me, he said, Carolyn, we're on a path and we can only see so far. And God is on, we're looking, it looks like we're going on a curve and the road just drops off. He said, but God is on us up high, and he knows that path. He has that plan for us, and he knows, well, the road curves, but it goes downhill and it goes back uphill and it curves again, but we can't see that far. And he said, you just have to believe that God has a plan for your life. Now, I have always felt that, but that conversation reinforced it, that feeling that I'm not alone, that I can always find that solace with it in prayer. I think about, we're talking about mental health, but it's believing that there is always going to be a positive outcome. That's what has driven me, that I think, all right, no matter how bad it can be or how bad it gets, I know that it's going to be better. That's my belief. I know it's going to be better. It may be just for a short while, but something will happen. God will show me a way. And maybe it's not even a conscious thought, but it's that inner belief that this too shall pass, and I will be stronger for it, and the better opportunity is coming. I have always felt that. And I've never really felt it was just relying on me, but that inner strength is something that is above me, beyond me. It's not of my own power. And that has kept me going. That there is a better day, and it will be revealed to me, or I will know what that next step is going to be. And that's helped me in my marriage, both marriages. It's helped me in just periods of adversity. So I think sometimes it's hard to keep that and maintain that. But that's what I rely on.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about faith, God, trusting in Him, all those different things. I mean, that's something key and fundamental as a Christian, right? That we have that extra source to rely on, and that helps us through the adversities in our lives. One of the tools, though, I think, like you point out here in the Women of Power book, you give us 4 specific steps. And maybe you could talk a little bit about those. I'm just going to say them in a kind of a quick synopsis, but you say, give yourself permission to put yourself first. Decide what you want, get started, don't give up, and create a plan. Maybe you can elaborate a little bit on some of those to try to give us some tools, like how do we get past some of this stuff?
In the Women of Power book, I talk about sort of the winters that I went through, and knowing that there was a summer ahead, a summer in my life. But what changed my life significantly was knowing that I could put myself first, that it was okay to put myself first. And a lot of times we as women don't do that. Women feel that, whatever you need to do, you've got to take care of your family. I totally believe that, but it's not selfish to give yourself permission to think about what you want. It wasn't until recently someone asked, what were my goals? What were my dreams? And I had to admit, I had stopped dreaming. I didn't have goals that weren't related to my career or what did I need to do to get that promotion. But for me to sit back and think, I can think about what I really want, what's really important to me in life. And I recognized I had not given myself permission to do that. I had not even thought about self-care or investing in myself. It just seemed like a luxury that only, wealthy people did. And I also think there was a side of me that felt maybe it was too late to do that, right? It was too late that those are things you do when you're younger. That wasn't the mindset. It wasn't popular when I was young. No, you kind of followed that path. But I think it's time that for all women to stop and assess where they are and to know that, one, they have the power to change their life, to take control of their life, but it starts by being honest, by saying, what do you want? What is it that you really want in life? And that it is okay to do that. So that's why I talk about, giving yourself permission to put yourself first. And then it was like, well, that second thing is decide what you want. I mean, what do you really want? Think about that big dream or that big goal, because a lot of times we don't do that. It might be something small. It might be, define those goals, or we reel them in because we want to say, oh, that's too big or that's not possible. But I have met women, oh goodness, especially this year, who've talked about they've always had a dream of going to law school, or they wanted to go to be a doctor. They wanted to go into nursing, or they've always wanted to teach. And they're like, oh, it's too late for me to do that. But someone had to encourage them to start thinking about what was their real purpose in life. What was their true calling? What was this goal that they had laid aside years ago? And I'm saying now you can do this. You can sit back, give yourself permission to figure out what it is you want, invest in yourself, take some classes, but then really think about what type of life you want and how you can achieve that. And then know that you can get started and you can achieve that goal, and you can start dreaming again. and that it's possible to do that. So we always talk about, don't worry about the how. And I'm a big believer in that. It's when you have a goal and you have a dream and you are focused on that and you are committed to that dream, the how will, I felt the universe will provide, whether it's the universe, God, but the universe will provide for you. But the biggest thing that many women, and particularly women who are over 50, they've just stopped doing that. They've stopped dreaming, stopped having goals. And I'm here to tell them that it's possible to do that. That's my belief. I at 68, I retired from accounting and said, that's not what I want to do. I mean, there's part of me that still wants to keep my toe in the water, but I felt like I was meant to speak, to talk to women, to coach other women, to say, hey, it's not too late for you to start living your best life, however you define it. But are you happy with the life you're living now? And if you're not happy, then let's take some steps to change that. Figure out what you want, and then we'll figure out how you're going to get there.
Yeah.
So,
no, that's great, and that's the create the plan part, right? I mean,
create the plan.
And you mentioned your age. You didn't have to do that.
I'm proud of my age.
I know, and it's so incredible because you look fantastic.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
For 68, and it just shows, though, right, that you've done things right. You've taken care of yourself well, and having this positive mental attitude, right? It goes a long way with becoming who we are. We need to have that right balance in our life, physical, mental, spiritual, and then we get to, keep that positive attitude going. We keep up our appearances a little bit more, right? And we're not, some of these older people, which you talked about in the greatness book, right? You were talking about people, the older people, the plus 50 people, where they would get around and talk about their pains and their aches and all the different drugs that they're taking. I kind of found it a little funny because my dad used to have a saying too, that it was mind over matter. If you don't mind, it don't matter. Yeah. But I mean, maybe talk a little bit about that part of it, because it's just kind of interesting. We're both in that, plus 50 category. But life does change when you get older, and how do we keep that positive mental attitude in regards to that?
So I think it's important for, as you mentioned, we have to take care of ourselves. We have to take care of ourselves physically, but having a positive mental attitude just goes so much farther and takes us farther than we think we can, or think it does. I mentioned in the book, I think I did, that I feel like I'm bionic at this point. I've had both of my knees replaced. I've had shoulder surgery. I had surgery on my ankles. But even with my knee replacement, I was immediately thinking about, what am I going to do afterwards? Oh, there was a walk that I wanted to participate in. There was a trip that I want to take. I knew that it was only temporary, but it was, as your dad says, it's mind over matter. So I have friends that have gone through similar surgery. One focused on how bad it was going to be, that it was going to be difficult. She was going to be in pain, still focuses on the pain. I have another friend who just had total knee replacement. She said, nope, I'm going to recover. It's going to be great. She's thinking about the next race she's going to do. She just had surgery 3 weeks ago. She's driving already. She says, it's attitude. It is it is your attitude. The phrase, and now I don't know if it was Alan, we are who we think we are. We become who we think we are. And so often we focus on, people in our age group focus on what they can't do versus what they can do. And I am just an advocate for believing in that you can do everything that is possible, that you have to think about how you're going to get there, perhaps from a physical standpoint, but that you exercise, you eat right, that being a certain age isn't a death sentence in and of itself. So when I look back and think about, oh goodness, I'll be 69 next week, so I will plug that in 14. But my dad lived to 100. And I sit back and think, oh my goodness, if I am blessed to live as long as he did, I have 31 more years.
That's right.
Of life. And so what am I going to do in those next 30 years? That's how I approach life. I'm not, yes, you have aches and pains. Yes, you gain weight, you want to lose weight. There are things that we have to deal with. Even when, as a younger person, if you don't take care of yourself, you can have some of those same aches and pains when you're younger. But it is knowing that you can still accomplish things that you put your mind to. But I know so many people who say, well, we're not spring chickens anymore. And I'm thinking, speak for yourself, or that's something a young person would do, or even places that I want to go. I have friends who are like, oh, really? Are there people there our age? And I'm thinking, do we care? So why don't we just go and enjoy whatever that environment is? So generally, I'm thinking of going to a concert or wherever. I tend not to focus on, is it appropriate for my age? And that I think, all right, you want to do it, do it. If it's within your ability, do it. If you have a goal, the days of me wanting to go hang gliding and bungee jumping are over. I did think about doing those at one point. I mean, those aren't my goals anymore, but I want to live a long, fruitful life and helping other people live a long, fruitful life.
Well, that's what our goals should be in part, right? All the things that we learn ourselves are really meant to, somewhere along the way in our life, equip other people, So that's why it's important for not only ourselves to be coached and mentored, but then along the way, we're going to find somebody that we can coach and mentor. It might not be like, big time or anything else like that, but you're sharing your life stories with somebody and they're in that particular, place and time, and what you've gone through will minister to them, right? Will help them get up out of the hole that they're in and be able to speak to them and get them on the right track. And you never know, right? Our stories might be saving somebody's life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I know I'm going probably plugging Dr. Sherwood, but she has a saying that the story you're sitting on is the prescription someone is waiting on.
There you
that
go.
You don't know the impact you have on people. I've been amazed that people I didn't think were noticing me or watching me or will send me a note. Keep doing what you're doing, Carolyn. Love your stories, love your posts. And sometimes I sit there and think, oh, nobody's watching. No one cares. No one's paying attention. And so it's been surprising for me for someone to come back and just give a little note to say how I've inspired them. And that keeps me going as well. So I am trying to live my best life, to say, what do I want to do for the rest of my life? And if I can help other people have that open attitude to still go for their goals, to still keep dreaming, and particularly women, just to take control of their lives and be very self-sufficient, financially independent, that's important to me, because a lot of times women are not.
And I want you to talk about that because you and I were talking one on one personally on that type of thing. And I shared a little bit from a background that I had and different things that I've seen over the years. And I agree with you. I think that's so important because I remember a long time ago when I was a young man, just starting off in life. I had a girlfriend and her grandfather died, left her grandma alone. She didn't know how to even put gasoline in the car. So, I mean, encourage us out there, especially the women, right? That, you know, have been, I don't know, maybe taken advantage of or just inadvertently not learned things because their husband took care of it or what have you. Like, tell us what we need to do to, like, make sure we're mindful of things.
Oh, great point, Donato. There are so many women, and not just women, but men too,
Yeah.
but who I always say are not in control of their finances. Whether, even though they may work, but they might contribute to a joint account and they rely on their spouse to take care of everything. And they don't know what expenses are incurred for their household. They don't know if who their mortgage is paid to. Is there insurance for the home? They might, but they say, oh, my husband is going to take care of that, or my husband is in charge of that. I'm a very firm believer in trust but verify. That yes, you need to know. I think I was going to say all women, but all people need to know what are the finances in your house. I believe in having a budget, so you know what's the income flow, and then what's your expenses. You need to know on a month-to-month basis what's kind of like your net income for your business, but also for your household. I was
Well,
just
that's just being in proper communication, really. I mean,
yes,
I kind of want to clarify that even from a man's perspective, because, like, it doesn't matter if it's the man or the woman taking care of the finances, let's say, because there's some women that take care of the finances for the home.
absolutely,
There's men that take care of the finances. It's about
absolutely,
communicating, sharing that experience. I mean, I tell my wife whether she cares to know things or not, like, honey, I want to do this, or I think we should do this,
right.
or can we do this? Because, we got all this other stuff coming up, so even though, yeah, maybe I'm the one managing things, I still involve her so she has at least a say in it, and I'm not just going hog wild doing my own thing.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, I grew up in a household where my mom was a homemaker, but my mom took care of the finances. My dad had his money direct deposited, but my mom paid all the bills. My mom allocated the money. She did the savings. So much went into savings because that was something she was better at than my dad. But did my dad know? Of course. And I see a lot of times women find themselves in position where they have trusted, I say trusted but not verified, where I think of examples that you and I talked about. Another good example, I was talking to a young lady whose good best friend was getting married. She's living with her boyfriend, getting married, but she has no idea of his finances. She has no idea how much he makes. She has no idea how much he owes, but yet they're willing to get me. They have a date scheduled. And I thought, that's not good. You have to be on the same page financially, or at least understand your partner, your spouse, their relationship with money, because not everybody has the same relationship with money.
Yep.
So you've got that scenario where I think it's important for couples to work together and understand kind of what their goals are, and they work together to save or pay their bills. But but sometimes that doesn't happen. I'm going to talk about two other scenarios, because there are times when and I've known many women who their names are not on the mortgage or deed for their homes. They're putting money into a joint account, not realizing that their spouse is pulling money out, or they thought that their spouse was paying the mortgage only to find out that the spouse had other plans, maybe was planning to leave, and found out the house was in foreclosure. And we're talking about educated women, not all, women in all aspects of life, whether they're homemakers, but women who are career women, professional women, everyone can fall into that position where you've trusted and you're uninformed and you're relying on someone else's judgment, but there's no communication that you mentioned. There's no communication. You're not on the same page. I mean, what I give even another example, when I talk about having the same relationship with money. I found out with my late husband that he wasn't a person who was going to pay bills. The bills would come in. He might not even open them. And I found the bills still sitting on the counter, or they would go in a little nice, neat stack. And I thought, wait a minute. So then I realized, all right, that's something I needed to do, because I'm assuming the car payment is being made and different things are being done. And he was more cavalier about it. Not saying he was a bad person, but I was like, it didn't faze him that something didn't get paid that month. And I thought, okay, no, we can't do that. So we're talking about all, realms of the ends of the spectrum, but it's when we have, it's with situations where women have totally relied on someone else to the point that it is negatively impacting them from a financial standpoint. And I want all women to be more educated about their finances and take control of their finances.
No, I couldn't agree more. And it goes beyond that too, with all kinds of aspects of life, right? I mean, my wife doesn't like to do certain stuff, but I still try to encourage her to do something, that she's uncomfortable with, just so she knows. I mean, I'm like you, like my grandma was 100, my dad was 80, I'm going to live forever, right? But on the off chance I'm not around or whatever the case might be, she needs to be able to do these things, right? So I want to make sure she's equipped in doing things. She hates when I do it, but it's like I'm trying to equip her, right, and get her out a little bit out of the comfort zone, just so she knows how to do whatever it is. But that's something I guess I want to kind of mention. We've been talking a lot about finances, but communication is a key part of all of this. So not only our finances and us, knowing how the bills are paid and that they're getting done on time and stuff like that, I would encourage people out there to, come up with a spreadsheet, a Word document, whatever it is in your household that you have, so the other person knows how to access things. They might not hardly ever do it, right? But what if you die? The proverbial bus comes along and hits you. We need to be able to, have our spouse be able to access, whatever it is, to pay those bills, to see our bank account information, all of these different things that the other might take care of, and just be responsible, right? And have certain plans in place if something catastrophic were to happen. I mean, it's just kind of common sense, but we tend to overlook it, right? Some of us may or may not have life insurance. It just depends, what stage in your life have you gotten to that you see that as an important thing,
right?
And all of those different things play, into each other, and our spouses need to know how to do all of these things. So
absolutely. I mean, these are things that I even now share with my children. I mean, I've been an accountant, I'm a CPA, work in, looking at the books of companies for over 45 years. And helping either small businesses to set up their budget, make sure, even if you are just starting out as an entrepreneur, you need to know how to keep your business expenses separate from your personal expenses. But it's something as simple as a basic spreadsheet to know all of the money coming in, money going out, and what you have at the end of that particular month, what you expect to come in and out. So you have somewhat of a budget. It could be something very basic, but you need to understand that. But you hit the nail on the head in terms of showing your spouse, talking to her, whether she wants to know it or not, but know how to access that information. I know when we were chatting one-on-one, I talked about a friend of mine that her husband did everything for her. She worked, but he did the cooking, he took care of the finances, he did everything, and she was happy to be taken care of. And that was a great sense of comfort for her, but he passed away. She did not know anything about their bank accounts, the mortgage, the insurance, any of the expenses, the bills, because she had never dealt with that. And my goodness, it put her at such a disadvantage. I mean, something as basic as she never paid for her phone bill, and then her cell phone stopped working. You think it's minor. Some people would say, oh my gosh, how is that possible? But she cannot possibly be the only person in the world that has happened to. So it does happen. And we just need to prepare ourselves and be informed. That's what I think, be informed, that we all need to be informed of where we are financially and understand if we have goals, how those and what those financial goals are, and how those goals may differ from our partner, our spouse, and we just have to have that communication going. So it's just very important. People say, "Oh, take charge of your life, take charge of your dream again, and have big goals," but they don't include financial goals or day-to-day financial aspects of their lives in that planning or in those goals. And that has to be taken in consideration as well.
Well, and you talk about those goals and you just kind of said it in a different way, but you asked the question in the Greatness book, why do we stop dreaming?
Oh.
And you and I were talking about that too, especially as it comes with the age or even not. But like, why is that? Like, why do we think that way? And I mean, go in a little bit on how that is.
To know, a lot of it depends on our background and our lives and how we were raised. I know I lived in an environment based on my parents' experiences where they were, don't dream too big. It's okay to dream, but don't dream too big. That was really the message. Maybe they didn't verbalize it, but that's what it was, kind of have those small attainable goals, if you will. So if that's what you hear all your life, so the idea of having a big dream may not ever occur. And then life's experiences and just kind of get in the way. And if we had a dream, we may think, oh, it's not possible now. And so when we think about those paradigms that we have, those things that have been ingrained in us all our lives, those thoughts that keep us from moving ahead, you may think it's too late. I can't do it now. I was never able to do that. Oh, it's a pipe dream. I'm too old. Or it's the fear of doing something different, that fear, getting out of our comfort zone. And that fear could be the fear of failure, the fear of being ridiculed, scoffed at, that people would say, what makes you think you can do that? Things like that just stop us in our tracks. And it takes a lot of self-confidence to get to a point, or to say, well, what makes you think I can't? But a lot of times you'd sit there and you think, oh, well, because you've elevated the person who's saying this to you, and you think, oh, they know more, they can do more, they're smarter, and you're comparing yourself to someone else, and you think, oh, wow, well, maybe they're right. Maybe I can't do that. Maybe I am foolish for thinking this. And that's why I say you've got to be around like-minded people who are going to encourage you to say, all right, there are no stupid questions, that you can do whatever you want to do, or to even just sit you down and say, what's your goal? What do you want to do? What's your dream? And it's rare on a day-to-day basis. It's rare that we find that in our lives. And if we have those thoughts, then whether it's our immediate family or our current community are going to say, who do you think you are? You can't do that. They might immediately shut us down. So that's why a lot of times people don't dream, they definitely think it's too late. Dreams are for younger people. Dreams are for people with money. Dreams are for people who can afford to make a mistake, because then we're like, oh, no, I can't afford to spend that money, because what happens? I'm jeopardizing my life, my family, whatever. And we become conditioned not to take a risk, right? So I just encourage people, especially, I always say, especially women over 50, you got to get out of your comfort zone. It's time to get out of the cocoon. It's time to learn to fly. And I'd say, be that butterfly, be all that you can be. And you think you're living your best life when you're that cocoon, or you're the caterpillar. But life can be so much better when you're the butterfly, and you really just, go through that metamorphosis and you just start flying. But a lot of us stop at the caterpillar stage, because you're like, ooh, life isn't so bad. We tell ourselves that we're living an okay life. It's good enough. And that, who are we to want more? And that's the question. It's like, but why would you not want more? Right. And you have to believe that more is possible.
That's so good. And a lot of that is our mindset, right? And all of those questions or things that you said are so true. I mean, I've thought them, and said them or whatever else, and are cautious about things. Mm-hmm. But, we got to get out of our comfort zone sometimes. We got to, do it right, though, have that right mindset, make sure we're properly planning things. And, you said something too about, don't worry about the how, just get that goal set, and it's going to happen, right? Things are going to line up, because a lot of it has to do with our positive mental attitude that we've talked about, having the right mindset, getting the right perspective on things, and that whole, why do we stop dreaming? Part of it also is because we've put our imagination away.
Oh, yes.
We've been told since we're kids, get your head out of the clouds and stop daydreaming and all this other stuff. And, where some of that might be a little true, we don't want to get, too out there. You still need to keep that imagination active when it comes to your goals and your dreams and the visions that you have for your life about being successful and knowing and believing in yourself, right? You talked about a little bit like fear. You can only live in one of two things, fear or faith. Yes. Are you going to be fearful of everything in your life? Or are you going to step out in faith and do something, And that's the challenge to all of us, to pick one or the other. Don't live in fear, right? Get out, step out, have some faith, have some belief and confidence in yourself. I think that's a big one, for all of us, is that confidence level. But we need to build ourselves up. And that's, where like this channel especially is all about getting motivated. It's about building ourselves up, having the tools, equipping them, and just get out there, take control of our lives. And that's one of the things that you said in the greatness book here that I want to just kind of emphasize as we're closing. You talk about taking that control and stop being a thermometer and reacting to everything. And I like, wow, that's so powerful. Can you elaborate a little bit on that and what that means, and just speak to us on that, because I thought that was so great.
Oh, Donato, and I think about that. It's the analogy of a thermometer versus a thermostat. When we think about a thermometer, we're all familiar, especially with the older thermostats or thermometers, where you put in your mouth and you can't open your mouth, you don't want to move, you don't want to touch anything hot or cold, because that's going to impact the temperature. But when you think about a thermostat, you set the temperature for the thermostat, and it is, regardless of what else is going on, that thermostat just stays on target, moving towards whatever temperature you've set. And then when you look at that thermostat is not being impacted by the external things. And I don't want to get into the science of it, because there's going to be a scientific argument that says, well, yeah, it does. But you kind of just look at that to say, when you are the thermostat of your life, you are ignoring everything external to you. You're not looking at what people are thinking, what they're saying, what they're doing. You are focused internally on your goal, versus when you are living a thermometer life, you're going to be swayed by every little thing that happens, people's comments, events that occur in your life. You're not really focused on your goal. You're looking and you think something happens, and you're like, okay, well, it's not possible anymore. And you stop, or you're swayed, or you modify that goal because of some other event in your life. So I'll look at that, and I wrote about being the thermostat. Don't be the thermometer in your life. Be the thermostat, where you are singularly focused on your goal. And regardless of what happens, you are still marching towards that. Now, you might delay the goal. You might, it's the timing might change, but the goal is still your goal. And that's what, I was referring to is being that thermostat. When you're set towards that, I guess, marching towards that goal, and you're not going to be deterred by things that are happening externally to you.
That's so good. I mean, I love that analogy. It's so right on point. Stop reacting and correcting. Start just living, right? Staying that neutral spot so you can, march towards the goal. I mean, that's just great advice for all of us.
Absolutely.
So Carolyn, as we close here, tell us a little bit more about how to get a hold of you, what kind of programs you offer. And I mean, some of this is going to be in the description below, but give us a quick little, plug here for all the things that you can do for us.
Well, thanks, Donato. I have a coaching program for women over 50 to help women start living their best life, to take control of their lives, whether it's personally, professionally, financially, to start taking control. And you can reach me. This is a 12-week program. It is designed for women over 50, but I would love for anyone to follow me, but you can reach me my website, carolynbrooks-collins.com. You can sign up for a exploratory 15-minute call, and we can talk about what your goals are and how you can reach them. But I'm also on Facebook. I have my Women of Purpose Coaching Network that will be up and running soon, but I am open to anyone reaching out to me. But again, I focus on women over 50, helping them to see that life doesn't end because you reach a certain age, and that you can still dream again and live your best life.
All right, that's great. Well, again, Carolyn, thank you for being on the show today. It was awesome having you. I'm sure we could probably talk for another hour, but we're kind of limited here. But yeah, again, thanks so much. All very good, powerful information. And everyone, until next time, be blessed.
Follow Donato on Facebook and LinkedIn at Donato Parisi, or go to donatomotivates.com. Remember, you can be anything you want and desire. All you have to do is get motivated.